Hey guys, happy Monday. It is a new week. We only have this week and next week, hopefully, and then we should be able to be back in the classrooms and learning per usual. I'm very excited this week. I know some of your guys' feedback was that you wanted to be doing something a little bit different than just like the classic classwork that we had been doing these last 2 weeks. So what we're going to be doing is a new novel study. I'm very excited about it. I don't think any of you have read this book before, but it was one that I read in grade school and that most people do read in 7th or 8th grade. So I thought that we would give it a shot for the next 2 weeks, and hopefully we get it done. If not, then Mr. Brantley and Mr. Foster are going to take it over when you guys go back, first week back in the classroom. Okay, so trusty sidekick mate sitting next to me. There she is. We're ready to go. So what you need to do is, first, here is a picture of the novel that I have. And you'll see it's The Giver by Lowry. It is amazing. It's a really, really good book. And the better thing is there is a movie. I don't want any of you guys to cheat and watch it first because the book is way better than the movie, like we always talk about. But you guys, I will link the video eventually in here so that you guys can watch it, and we're going to compare and contrast the video and the book. So what I want you to do is go ahead and track. There's not going to be a classwork for today. I just want you, it's actually a project. So I want you to go into those Google Slides, and I'm going to walk you through these really, really quick and go over Utopia and Dystopia so you know what the main character's world is like in this book. And then I'm going to set you off to go do your project on your own, okay? Now, the thing with the project is you should be able to get it done in one day. I'm only requiring 5 slides, but if you want to make it really, really cool, go ahead and take some time on it and get it turned into me throughout that week. Okay, so go ahead and track. You see on the second slide, it says your new novel, The Giver. So I'm just going to kind of read through these slides. So Jonas's world is perfect. Everything is under control. And this is the back of the book. Okay. Everything's under control. There is no war or fear or pain. There are no choices. Every person is assigned a role in the community. When Jonas turns 12, he is singled out to receive special training from the Giver. The Giver alone holds the memories of true pain and pleasure of life. Now it's time for Jonas to receive the truth. There is no turning back. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, so we see in the first line that it says Jonas's world is perfect. Everything's under control. There's no war, fear, or pain. Now, obviously, we know in like worlds like today, there is fear and pain and war and all of those things. So this is going to be a little bit of a different type of world than what we're used to. If you've read or watched the movies like Divergent, Hunger Games, Maze Runner, which are really popular, I Am Legend, all those kind of things, they take place in a dystopia. So that's what our next slide is going to be about. That's definitely more popular. For some reason, people like to read the books about like a post-war life and what it would be like because we know what pain and fear and war looks like. And so it's easy for us to imagine a world where like there's another world war and then the world just kind of goes up in flames and then we have to like rebuild it and what that would look like. And so the dystopia, if you're looking at the next slide, says a place with secret problems. And also most of the time they're very obvious problems. There is great suffering or injustice. Think about the Hunger Games where the capital is like this perfect place, and then you have the poor districts that are like barely being able to eat and all of those things. It's usually created after something devastating like a war, so government or a person-made changes. In Divergent, which is one of my favorite book series, there was a war, and to teach the people, just like in Hunger Games, so to teach the people a lesson, what they do is they create these little communities that seem like they're perfect, but really there's a lot of things going on. And there's always like one person that's in charge or a small group that is in charge that not always thinks about the wellness of the group, but what would work for a few people. And then you have this dystopia. And then there's characters usually trying to solve the problem and show others that there's a better way to live. So if you're thinking of Hunger Games, Katniss goes in and she's like, no, I'm not going to kill my partner. No, we're not going to do this. No, this is not how this world needs to be. This is unfair. And she shows the other people, we do not need to keep living like this. Same thing in Divergent. Tris shows people we don't need to live this way. There's a better life out there. Okay, so then we're going to switch gears. So that's dystopia, okay? That is like a pain and suffering world. Now we're going to switch gears into a utopia. So the opposite of dystopias is a utopia. And what is a utopia? So that is an ideal place, a perfect place. It's any visionary system of social or political perfection. So, example, if you think the Capitol in Hunger Games, it's a perfect place, nothing bad happens. Okay. Everyone in the Capitol is equal, but then on the outside, that is like a dystopia, right? But what I just want you to think is how that Capitol looks, and everybody's, it's, to them, it is like a perfect world because they don't see anything else on the outside. They built themselves this little utopia within this huge dystopia. The main thing here, guys, is that everyone is equal, okay? That's what they say. Everyone is equal. How do they do that, okay? And we're going to see that in Jonas's community, how they make everybody equal. So who lives there? There could be religious groups, experimental communities, like in Divergent. What they do is it's like an experiment to see, can these different people live and work and play together in a world where they're all different, but if they're in their own little sections, can it all kind of work together? Socialist group, where people think that if everybody does their job and things like that, like everything should be equal, okay? So there is no war, no poverty. Again, all are equal. Jonas lives in a utopia, but what I want you guys to be thinking this whole time is, in these perfect worlds, if everything is perfect, if no matter what your job is, you are required to give the same amount, required to work the same amount. There are certain rules put on you so that in certain choices you do not have, to make sure that things are equal. So could things really be as perfect as they seem? And in this picture, you can see like kind of a perfect world. So utopia versus dystopia. What I want you to do is, there is a YouTube video linked there. Go ahead and you can click that once we're done, so that you can learn a little bit more about what a utopia looks like and a dystopia. So side by side, comparing and contrasting. Utopia versus dystopia. On the left, you have utopia. It says orderly and ideal, perfect world with no problems, safety for citizens with no violence or war. It's ruled by a peaceful government. All are equal. Everyone has healthcare, education, shelter, food, employment. And that's part of that like socialist group type thing, which you guys may be hearing about with the news and like certain like socialist people running for president and things like that. Dystopian world. So the opposite. Chaos. There's often war. There's a lack of basic necessities, which is like food, water, shelter. There's a lack of that. There's not a bunch of it. The environment is often corrupt. So while it seems like there is a government, like I said before, a government that is working for the people, a lot of the times you see that it's actually corrupt and they're only worried about a certain group or themselves or things like that. There may be a rebellion fighting the people in charge. Think about Katniss and Hunger Games. Poverty or hunger are rampant. So mostly everyone is hungry. Mostly everyone is poor, except that small group. And then everyone is subject to conflict, even children. So there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of fighting, and everyone is subject to it. They all have to deal with it. So what your guys' aim is for today is you are going to create a utopian community. I don't want you thinking about, oh, well, after World War III or after this coronavirus, all this craziness happens. No, we're thinking of a perfect world, okay? What would your perfect world be like? So what you are going to do is in your linked into your Google Classroom is a blank Google Slides. You are going to create in Google Slides, if you have it, this perfect utopian world. All right. So, and on the next page, I'm going to say everything that you need to have included in it, and then you guys can be as creative as you want. You need to have a brief description and pictures that represent the people that live there, the jobs, what life is like, etc. So at least 5 slides, which is not very many. This is your idea of a perfect world, okay? Your idea. So if your perfect world is every single person gets a puppy and they get to run around with that dog and life is perfect and we're running around on clouds, that's great, okay? That's your perfect world. You need to set it up though, and you need to say, how is it perfect, okay? So you need to be specific with what would it be like? What would it look like? What would it sound like? What would some of these jobs be like? How do people get these jobs? Is there choice or does somebody choose for you? And then on the next page, I'm going to show you what you need to include. And then I want you to start, and then there's some directions on how to use Google Slides if you're a little confused. So what to include on your slides. The first slide is going to come up as your title slide, okay? You need to have the name of your utopian place. So for example, in The Giver, it is called the community, okay? That's what they call it, the community, all right? So who lives there? Is it all kinds of people? Is it only 7th graders? Is it only 8th grade? You know, like what is it? Okay, what is your perfect world? What kind of jobs do people have? What makes it a perfect place to live? And why should others come to live in your town? That is the biggest one. I want you to try and convince other people that they need to come and live in your perfect world. Why should they want to be there? And I don't just want you to put, because it's a perfect place. Why should they go? And then you can add as many slides as you want to your project. So add in pictures, make it look really nice. Okay. And if you, for some reason, cannot use Google Slides, because I know some of you are just like handwriting your stuff, that's fine. Just write down what is required for these 5 slides and write it down on a piece of paper and explain it out, okay? And then I can give you a grade for that. On the next page, it's how to make your presentation. So there's a Google slide that's added on the right-hand side. So when you go into it, as soon as you go into open your new slides, you're going to see a title page where you're going to put the name of your Utopia, and then you're going to put your name on it so I know whose project is whose. And then off to the right, there is different themes. So you can choose, like if you want, like I chose like just a black background for this one. You can add in different backgrounds, different themes, all bunch of different stuffs in here. On the left, there's a small button that's a plus sign. You can see the picture that I added in there. That's going to add slides. You can also just click on the current slide that you're on and then hit enter, and it'll just give you a new slide. You should have a title on each. So for example, your first slide should just be your title, your name. Your second one should follow what I said, which is who lives there. So your title could be who lives there, or people that live there are, okay, things like that. And then the next slide shows you how to add pictures. So for example, you can just drag in little pictures. You can have a picture is like your entire background, all that kind of stuff. So you can either drag them in. So what you can do is you can open up a new tab and then look up a picture, and then all you have to do is literally touch it and drag it in, and it'll pop it, and then you just like stretch it out. Or you can go in where I have a picture down here, and there is a button that says Tools. You go down to Explore, and then over it says Search Your Docs and the Web. And what you're going to do is you can click in anything. So for example, you could type in Frozen, and all these pictures of Frozen will come up, and all you have to do is click it, and then it'll put it up for you. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys go ahead and go for that. There is an exit ticket about Utopia and Dystopia this week. Your first question is just, what is a utopia? Then what is a dystopia? True or false, utopias are perfect. There are never any issues. True or false, living in a utopia, there would eventually be problems. And then what kind of project would you like to do with this book that would make it more fun? I really want to make sure that we are doing things that are interesting and fun and like keep you guys engaged during this time. It's hard on the computer, but we can certainly do it. Later on in the week, you are going to see that there's like another activity on Friday. So I'm trying very hard to make sure that this is fun for you guys. So make sure that you add that in there so that I can see your responses. Okay. Have a great day. See you later.